Well, previously we have already talked about the whole process of how this document was made. And now I'm gonna go specifically into this part, which is to make the components like the title, table, and whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna show the sub steps of that, and at the same time I'm going to close the rest of that. So basically it involves 5 steps. The first is to define the title. So if we work side by side, define the title, which is this part, and then we're going to define the credential table, and then we're going to define the node, and we're going to define the research steps table, and after that we're going to set the section property, which is to make this page like in a landscape view or whatever. So going back to this doc.xml, so each part is merely to repeat this process and create the tags or the selectors, like this WP part for project, and within it is going to set the properties, which is to create more of this XML nodes or selectors. All right, and then to make the settings. So this process is basically involving the editing for each individual XML component or the nodes. So each node, for example, taking this WPPR, all right. So we can find that actually it has the tag names. All right, so this is the thing we need to define. And the other is that it has this attribute name, and then it has a value for this attribute, right? So in this case, it has multiple attributes. It has 4, right? So these are the attribute names. And the other is that it's going to have this text contents. So sometimes it's also called inner text. But anyway, so text contents is a more appropriate name. So anyway, so you can see that all of these nodes are going to have 3 critical parts. The first is the tag name. The second is the property, the attributes with the attribute name and also the value, and then the text contents. All right. So no matter how complicated it is always like that. So with the jQuery object, for example, if we have a jQuery object of it, then we can view the text content of it. We can view the tag name. We also can view the property name with the specified property name and also its value, right? So that is the concept, all right? So basically, all right, so this is one part. The other is that, so consider this. So we have this paragraph tag, and within that there will be descendants, right? So we can have different ways of treating that. The first is that we can first create a paragraph tag or selector, and then within this, right, we're going to create a run selector, and then within it a text selector, and then we're going to append this to this and append this to this. All right, so this is one way of doing that. The other is that we can also we can also write, for example, for this part it has a tag of this sec the property, right? So inside actually there is a lot of text to create, and this thing is almost fixed, you know. We don't have to change or customize that from time to time, right? So in this case we can write this part as an inner HTML within this tag. So there are different ways of handling the ways of creating this XML nodes or selectors or components. Basically, they are similar things. All right. So these are the concept, the the basics behind the creating of this nodes or components or selectors. So these names are really yeah. So I'm gonna call that for the rest of the things. I'm just gonna call that a tag. All right. So just to make it easier to say it. Okay. So based on this this kind of ideas. All right, so despite that we're creating different parts like a paragraph or a table row, whatever, or within a paragraph, a run or a text. So the basics behind that is the same. So that is why going back to this modules, we have a core module for it, which is called a WXO. So standing for using a macro to create a Word XML object. All right, so this is the core. This is really, sorry, this is not here. So I'm going to go to this. So it is called a function WXO. Yeah, so this one. All right, so it is going to take the tag names, attributes, HTML. So basically, you will see that it is going to. Yeah, so it is going to have this tag names, tags. It's going to have this attributes, the name and the value, and then whether or not you're going to inject certain HTML code or the the text contents into this tag. All right, so that's the basic idea of it. So now I'm going to go back to this tree diagram to illustrate how the components are the tags are made. So for example, so we're going to define this title, and if we go to the sub things, we will see that, well, so we're going to create a paragraph, which is the function called the WXP. So if we go into this the repeatedly used modules, we will find that there is one called WXP, so which is standing for the Word XML paragraph object. All right, and this one in details, it has its sub steps, and basically it says that we're going to define, for this one we're going to define the service, and then it's going to make it. All right, so, and if we again go into the details of that, we will see that a lot of times it is going to use this module called the WXO, which is to create an object. So this is really the core of creating any type of text in this project. Okay, so again, so now I'm going to hide the sub steps and hide the sub steps just to make it neat, and then I'm gonna go to this specific one, which is to create any kind of the tag. All right. So basically, it has two parts. The first is that it's gonna define those variables called this variables. All right. So I'm gonna. So just a little bit about the background. So this one is a little bit different than the original the function. It's somehow like a class, all right, just in a different form. So basically what it does is that it can have this input, and then it's gonna put this input into an inner build variable, like let's go to tag names, such attributes. So the thing about this is that then now it becomes a property of this object, and then it can be used by the rest of the functions. For example, we have a function here called a make. So basically the make is going to do something using the input that has been built into this object. All right. So that's how it works. The first is that it is going to define this dot variables using the input, right? So after that, it is going to run a function called a make, right? So basically, so it is to run this function to create that XML object. That's how it works. All right. So now let's go into this details of this make, and it has a subject sub steps. So the first is that it's going to make an empty jQuery object with the tag names. So basically, so it is to say, well, I already know the tag name, right? Then we're going to wrap that with those brackets. So it's going to become two parts. One is the tag head, this is the tag end. All right. So combining those together, it becomes the tags, like so within the tag names, and the end of this tag names. All right. So, and then we're going to use jQuery to make that into a jQuery object. All right. So this is an empty jQuery object. All right. So, and after that, you will see that if you have HTML, it is going to add HTML into this tag. If you have attributes, then it's going to loop for each attributes and to get the name and also to get a value of this attribute and inject it into this tag. So if you have text contents, it's going to inject the text contents there. And finally, so within this make function, there is another function called append to. So this time it is going to, if you have a parent jQuery object, it's going to append this to the parent object. This is quite handy. All right. So that's basically how it works. That's how how this basic form of making a XML tag works. All right. So now we're just going to go back to this making this paragraph for a title. So that part, so it's going to follow the similar thing, but let's just go into. All right. So now we have this an example of this. So basically, how it is used is that. So for example, this time we're going to make a run jQuery object. So, and we're gonna make it and append it to the paragraph jQuery object. All right. So how we do it? So we're gonna initiate a new instance of this WXO, and this time we're gonna have the input to tell that the tag name is called a WR. Right. So this is the second is that is for the attributes. For this one, we don't have to add attributes, but then we're going to insert the HTML for a offspring or a descendant tag called RPR, whatever. All right. So anyway, so we're going to make that using this function called a make, right? And the make is going to return an object which is this this run jQuery object, and then we're going to append that to its parent, which is the paragraph jQuery object. So that basically that WXO function or the module allows to have somehow like a chain expression of making it. So we're going to make it and then append it to a certain to its parent. So basically how that's how it works. So going back and actually so for this part, so for the rest of the things are similar. Like this one is called WXP, which is to create a packet, the paragraphs, and this is to create a table. This is to create a table row within the table. So they are all similar. Right, so and they all have the similar structure, which is to define this, and then, for example, like let's just go to this paragraph 1. So it's going to define this, and then it has a make function, and within the make function, at the end, it is always going to have an append function, which is to append to, which is to append it to the parent function. All right, so basically that's it. That's the basics of how the whole document is made, especially how these tags or components are made.